the USA is striking back, because what should not be, cannot be. Namely, that the Chinese have developed an AI with DeepSeek practically from scratch, without much effort, that is at least equivalent to what OpenAI has brought to market as a final and paid version. You have to defend your crown jewel, especially Nvidia and everything else that goes with it. And so it is that we got the news last night. Microsoft, the big investor in OpenAI, has invested many billions and now wants to investigate whether the Chinese have not used data from OpenAI for training purposes or to train its own AI. And a few minutes later, an article appears in the Financial Times that says exactly that yes, they used OpenAI, so to speak, to train their model. Well, that may well be the case, but of course it doesn't change the principle that there is clearly a much greater level of efficiency here than has previously been the case with the AI dominators in the USA. We saw this setback or recovery from Nvidia yesterday. The tech sector in particular was green, the rest rather ungreen. That's why we see the Nasdaq 100 up 6% and the Russell Dow Jones, which are not so AI or tech heavy. But we can see that the whole story may not be completely cleared up yet, for example in the semiconductor index. And we see this massive fall, and we have made up a fraction of what went down here the day before, so to speak. If we take a look at the Nvidia share, we see a trend channel break boom. It fell out of the uptrend here, then reached an important support and made this bounce upwards. So the recovery should be enjoyed with a certain amount of caution, especially since everyone jumped in and bought this dip. And hooray, hooray, they were able to pull the future up again. We can see here that ASML has been doing very badly recently, basically on a downward trend since July last year, while TSMC, the Taiwanese chip powerhouse, has made significant gains. The stock hadn't been doing particularly well, and now this hurrah problem is only due to the fact that if what DeepSeek is ultimately bringing here is veritable, namely achieving similar or better results in terms of computing power, in terms of chips, with minimal effort, then ASML will also have a problem at a higher level, because I can then train models here with more or less, to put it a bit bluntly, ladies and gentlemen, with any run-of-the-mill chip. And here we see it again. After Microsoft said that they wanted to investigate this boom, then the article in the Financial Times came out immediately. OpenAI model trained. Yes, okay. It's relatively common in the industry to copy and so on and so forth. Sure, you probably have, so to speak. I can well imagine that this is the case, that DeepSeek uses OpenAI to train its own AI. In any case, we are now seeing statements like this. DeepSeek has spent over $500 million on Nvidia chips alone and so on. DeepSeek said, yes, we spent around $6 million here and not $1.5 billion. And back to OpenAI and Sam Altman. They are not, as I said, cautious, because when it comes to stealing data, their own AI is trained on a massive scale from copyrighted texts. There is a 68% probability that the interest rates will stay the same, but at least 31% is in the cards that something could happen. And if we look at the bets here or what we can observe in terms of capital flows, then we see that the bond market in particular is hoping that there will be another interest rate cut in March. Let's see if that goes well. Here we can see that what has happened is pretty significant. Let's look at the Fed fund futures. There we can see that the first interest rate cut will probably come on June 18. The probability is good, and then there will be another one in October according to these Fed fund futures. If we look at statements from Wall Street and CCK here, then we have to say that they were largely quite hawkish, because they said that inflation is picking up again a bit, there is a lot of uncertainty and so on and so forth. But we can see that consumers are becoming a bit more pessimistic, you could say. Here we can see that the consumer confidence index is going down and, above all, the hard-to-get jobs are increasing. This mood, this Trump euphoria, at least according to consumer surveys, has subsided a bit. Now we have ASML, which is generating a bit of euphoria. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take another look at the S&P, the leading index. It would then be possible that we test this gap again at 5,938. At some point the power will leave there, and then perhaps the 618 Fibonacci retracement at 909 would also be an interesting target zone. If we now act geopolitically again, we see that Putin has basically cancelled a meeting with Zelensky because he did not hold the elections. It has rarely been as interesting as it is now, also with DeepSeek, with Trump and the new elections in Germany.